Hi, Internet people. Today I'm continuing my reviews of Marvel movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and today I'm going to be talking about Thor. At first, when I made the last video, I was confused about which movie had come first in 2011, whether it was Thor or Captain America, and I looked it up and it turns out it was Thor. And I'm going to give this movie a rating by the end of this movie, but I want to talk about how this movie was the first movie after two Iron Man movies of a new character. It wasn't just Iron Man anymore, it was adding Thor and, as we know later, Captain America and the rest of the Avengers. But yes, this movie came out in 2011, and I think I saw it in the theaters maybe once or twice, I don't remember, but we subsequently owned it later, and upon a lot of rewatchings, I've come to appreciate it maybe a lot more than I first did when I first saw it. First thing I want to say is that Chris Hemsworth is perfect for the role of Thor. I think he did really well. At first showing that, the Thor who is young and reckless and wanted to experience life and have adventures and, all that kind of thing. And he just embodied those perfectly, I think. And as for Loki, I love Loki a lot, and even though this film only came out 4 years ago, I feel like Tom Hiddleston looked so much younger back then than he does now, and I'm just like, I look back and I watch it, I see Loki in his like pre-villain stage, and it's just like, oh man, I just want to like keep you in this stage of like semi-innocence, like I don't want to. It's like I want you to stay happy. But as we all know, that a lot of things change. So yeah, first off, I think it's neat how this film juxtaposes another world with our own world and how those two kind of interact. It's interesting. I remember it was cool to see another world. It was cool to see Odin and Loki and Frigga and Thor and the Warriors 3 and Sif and all of that, this whole other universe. And I think the effects were really amazing, and I think, upon first watching it, I remember my dad saying something like, all this other world stuff can get overwhelming, it can be even a little bit cheesy, but I say embrace the madness, embrace the cheese. I mean, unless, you don't have to, but I think it's always nice if you do, because then you're along for the ride. You're not here to, nitpick about or just say that's not realistic or this is too this could have been done better, or but just have your own opinion, definitely, but just anything you think looks cheap, it's comic book movies, okay? It's not gonna be realistic. It's other worlds, it's aliens. Anyway, yes, I love this movie and just what it sets up to, what it leads into. Thor, I love this character. I love his evolution in this movie because he goes from a reckless idiot. Let's just be honest here. He wanted adventure. He wanted all those things, but he was going about the wrong way. And dare I say it, his lust for war, to whatever solution there is to, Asgard's enemies, like, let's kill him. Let's charge in and show him who's boss. It's like, well, there might be other solutions to that. And that's where I think Odin and Loki might even agree in this instance, that there are other solutions to be found, as opposed to always just charging in and, wreaking havoc. But anyway, yes, Thor and his friends and Loki, they all go to Jotunheim, to the home of the Frost Giants, and they go there to find out how they broke in, and because that's what happens in the beginning of the movie. Thor is about to be coronated king when it's cut short by the Frost Giants coming in and trying to steal the casket of ancient winters. And the attack is stopped. It's halted before it really gets going. Nothing is taken, it's okay, but Thor reacts like this, like, we gotta do something, we gotta, all this kind of thing, and Owen's just like, for one, I think in this movie, at least for some of it, he's much better dad, he's much calmer, he's like, he's, approaching this a little more reasonably than Thor, but Thor disagrees disagrees, ignores his orders, and just like, screw it, I'm taking my friends and we're gonna go like kick some ass and we're gonna like, you know, again, wreak havoc. But Thor doesn't see it that way. He sees it as an adventure, as like charging in and taking charge and being, you know, the hero, essentially. And so they go to Jotunheim, all of them, and they get, I think they get greeted by Laffy, or some other, I forget who, but yes, they go there. They're, you know, honestly, I probably need to watch again to get all the specifics, so forgive me if I don't have all the details right. But yes, they go there. They're talking to one frost giant who's in charge, and words are exchanged, and eventually, you know, they can't really find any answers, or at least I think that they either didn't know about some of the frost giants going to Asgard and trying to steal that casket, and so, you know, maybe no reason to fight. I think they even offer, say like, if you leave now, we're not going to stop you, we're not going to hurt you, all of that. And honestly, that's a good deal. Loki was right in this moment. Thor, you should have taken the deal. You should have just gone back home. Nothing else would have happened. No destruction need be wrought. I mean, you know, I know that Loki's definitely shady. I'll get to that later. But I think, you know, before we knew that, we see him be Thor's foil almost, and be like the more reasonable one, trying to think of other solutions to this. And, you know, unfortunately, this escalates, and Thor, you know, and his friends, they all end up fighting frost giants, and, you know, it's huge, and everybody's just all out trying not to get killed, and, you know, all those things. And in this, and no, I think in this, obviously, the scene, we see Loki's magic, his illusions he's able to create of himself, and we also see, as he finds out, that he himself is a frost giant. And I can only imagine how shocked and devastated he was by this revelation, by finding this out. And, you know, that's a whole other, you know, I could really, like, go off on all of that and all that means and everything, but still, it's something you gotta feel sorry for Loki in that moment, because he didn't know, and he had to find out like this, you know, not from someone he knows, not from his adoptive parents telling him, but in the heat of battle, you know, and it's intense. And so, anyway, that fight ends. Well, obviously, Thor and his friends, you know, they wreak havoc. Sometimes seem like they're winning. They defeat this really big monster, but at the end of the day, they're still surrounded. But Odin comes and essentially rescues all of their sorry asses, and they go back to Asgard. Odin's busy yelling at Thor, you know, why did you do that? Was reckless, that was stupid, that was hot-headed, and you know, you're a boy, you're not ready to be king. And yeah, I agree with him. He's right. You know, Odin is right. And Thor kind of deserved to be banished. And that's where we bring to Earth, which we saw in the beginning, but we come back to later after we find out why he was there and who he is. That, the characters he meets when he falls to Earth are Jane Foster, Darcy Lewis, and Eric Selvig. All on this scientific mission trying to, you know, detect anomalies, all that kind of thing. And I think when I first watched this, I liked it fun, but I liked it more as I rewatch this movie, and how just seeing all the characters and thinking of them differently, because I think I've definitely grown in my appreciation for these minor characters, and for just where they started too, and also all the fan fiction I've read just makes me have this larger world than the movie presents. But anyway, yes, he's banished to Earth. You know, he's lost a lot of his powers. His hammer is gone. You know, all of that, and you know, he's essentially human. Though I'm not sure if he's fully human or if he's mostly human. But in any sense, he's fallen from grace, and he's in this new situation. And deviating from Thor, the character, a little bit, I love Jane Foster. I love Darcy. I love Eric. I love this odd little group. You know, that kind of work together, that kind of, and sometimes don't get along, but in the end, they do work together, and they do figure things out, and it's nice. And also, there's humor thrown in, of course, and the whole, you know, alien interacting with Earth, people and just all that kind of thing. It's always interesting. It's always fun to see that and see Thor try to fit in this new world. Definitely. And also here we see S.H.I.E.L.D. come in and kind of take Jane Foster's research, which I think is kind of rude of them. Especially because I don't think she knows who they are. I'm not sure. I'd have to rewatch it. But, you know. Anyway, yes, he interacts with them. And meantime, in Asgard, I'm definitely forgetting some details. But Loki, now knowing what he is, he goes to the Casket of Ancient Winters, which once belonged to the Frost Giants, and he picks it up. And we see him turn into his true form for the first time. And he talks to Odin. He confronts him, basically. And, Odin finally tells him that, there's this battle a long time ago, and I rescued you from Jotunheim and brought you back in hopes that in the future you could be used to bridge the gap between Frost Giants and Asgardians. But clearly that Odin had been putting off telling Loki, and so because he hadn't told him, he hadn't been able to use him to bridge the gap, I guess. So I'm really curious what Odin was planning to do, or if he was just putting it off inevitably. And yeah, I'm curious if what that would have happened if Loki hadn't found out, and if Odin had told him, and if, all of that. But it happened this way, it can't be helped. So yeah, so Loki is obviously understandably upset about this, and as a result of that confrontation, Odin goes into Odin's sleep and stays away for the majority of the movie. And as a result, Loki is made king, temporary king, but he doesn't change Odin's last order. He doesn't try to bring Thor back. And obviously, I see that Thor's friends are trying to get Loki to bring Thor back to try to, end his banishment. But Loki doesn't. And really, I kind of agree with that. I think Thor needed to be banished to learn what he learned. Obviously, I know that Loki is definitely prejudiced, definitely wants to be king, and doesn't want to give that position to someone else now that he finally has it. Definitely. But I also see how Thor's friends kind of just include Loki just because he's Thor's brother, not because they actually like him, which is kind of sad. I get the sense they were always suspicious of him, and maybe it's for good reason, but I just feel like they never saw him as a person, never saw him, I'm not saying they had to be friends with him, I'm just saying it's almost sad that none of them were. But I think they're blinded by their friendship with Thor, if I'm being truly honest. Loki might very well be blinded by power, by wanting to be given. That's the thing. I think at one point in the movie he even says not that his end goal was to be king, but he wanted to be considered. He wanted to be given the chance, and he felt that he never was. And who knows if he would have been content even if he'd been given the chance, but I don't know. Anyway, yes, Thor is on Earth. He adjusts. He tries to get his hammer back, but ultimately he fails and he gets captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. Temporarily. But in this sense, Loki is able to do magic to create an illusion to visit him, and he tells him that Father is dead, that Odin is dead, and obviously that's the wrong thing to do. But maybe if he said, I don't know, I could really go off and rant about this, but I won't. I'm just curious if Loki had told him the truth, that Odin was in Odin's sleep, and that Loki had been made temporary king, but you're still banished, you might put up more of a fight, I don't know. Obviously Loki shouldn't have told him that. He shouldn't have lied. And everything. Obviously Loki's looking out for himself at this point, maybe more than he's looking out for Thor. Because I can understand, because I think, as much as I've said, Thor needed to be banished to learn to care for other people and learn to grow up a little. I do think, of course, Loki shouldn't have lied. And he's out for his own power. That, it's not okay. So, that's definitely sketchy. It's sad, though, but I think as much as it was wrong for Loki to lie, I think knowing his father was dead and he was banished to Earth forever, at this point, that really helped knock more sense into him. It helped, kind of maybe shake him up a little and realize, okay, if I'm stuck here, then I'm stuck here. That kind of thing. I don't know. It probably could have been done differently. There's a right way to do it, but I think even if it was messy, it still served a purpose. So, anyway, at this point, Thor's friends, they first appeal to Loki to get Thor back, but then they figure, well, that Loki didn't do anything, so we're going to go to Earth. We're going to, we're going to get him back. And backing up a little, at one point Thor is imprisoned by S.H.I.E.L.D. I already said that. Little tidbit here. I love that when he's breaking into the facility and before he gets captured, trying to get the hammer back, he's beating up all these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and at one point they ask someone to get eyes up from above, like, to observe him, and to wait for orders. And I love that. I definitely didn't notice this until later, but we see Hawkeye for the first time. It's really cool to see him, and even it's very brief. He only has a few lines, but it's still neat to see that and know now who that is, and know that that he's doing his job and that he's seeing Thor for the first time. So it's a really cool tidbit. I think sometimes some of us forget that Hawkeye was in that first Thor movie. But yes, it's very cool to see him. And Thor tries to get his hammer, but he fails because right now he needs to learn a lesson. And fortunately, his new friends, Selvig and Jane and Darcy, they get him out, and they're able to kind of fool S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't know how well they fooled them. Maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. was just feeling merciful. Speaking of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's nice to see Coulson again. But yeah, they're back to working together and back to figuring out the anomaly, and what happened. And Jane and Thor definitely have chemistry. They have their romance is kind of starting, and it's nice. I think it's sweet. I think when I first saw it, I thought it was a tad, I don't know, rushed. But no, it's sweet. I think later looking back, I don't know if it's rushed, but maybe a little bit more realistic development could have happened instead of almost seemingly jumping into it. I know they didn't kiss right away, but I still feel like it could have slowed down a little. That's just me. That's my opinion, but that's okay. But yeah, wrapping this up, Thor comes to care about Earth and care about these humans, and it's good, and I think it helps him to grow up a little. And just when he's getting settled in, his friends show up from Asgard, and they tell him that his father's alive, and now he knows that Loki lied, and that's not good. And Loki is gonna kill Thor to make sure that Thor never comes back and never finds out the truth, which is, we found out later that Loki was the one who showed the Frost Giants how to get in. And if I'm remembering right, Loki talked to Laufey, who was in fact his actual father, but Laufey obviously never told him that. So Loki was the one responsible for that, maybe to show how Thor would react to it, which, hey, it worked. It showed that Thor wasn't ready to be king. So, it's a gray area, definitely, I think, on both sides. But yeah, so we see Loki attack Thor. We see the Destroyer come and blow up the little town and to get to Thor. And for once, Thor knows that, it's not going to be a blaze of glory. He doesn't have his powers. The Warriors 3 definitely try to help him, but ultimately, Thor tries to talk Loki down, and he tries to make him understand, but it doesn't really work. And ultimately, Thor sacrifices himself for his new friends, for these humans that he suddenly cares about. But in doing so, he's able to regain his powers, kind of be I don't know if resurrected is the right term, but he gets his powers back, he gets his hammer back, and, awesomeness ensues. He's in his full, godlike glory, and he is able to defeat the Destroyer, and he is also, stop the destruction from continuing to happen. So that war is won, but he has to go back to Asgard to stop Loki from doing even more damage, and so he says goodbye to his friends. And again, I think I see it a little differently now, but I remember in the beginning when I first watched this movie, I thought Jane and Thor, again, were a little rushed, but that's okay. I can live with it. It's minor, but yes, Thor leaves Earth. He goes back to Asgard. Where Loki had let more frost giants in, and Loki was about to kill Odin. Now, if I'm remembering this right, Loki is the one who stops him to make himself seem more of the hero, which obviously it's based on a lie, which Thor comes and exposes, and Frigga sees the truth, and Thor sees the truth, and Loki knows that he's screwed, essentially. But he goes to the Bifrost, to the way that the means of travel that they do between realms, and he tries to use it to destroy Jotunheim, destroy the frost giants. And there's probably a whole other, analysis that could be done of Loki's mentality at this point. I'll just touch on it a little. He knows that he himself is a frost giant, but he's been raised to despise frost giants. He was never raised to think of them as equals, or to think of them as, as beings with just as much rights as he has. He doesn't think that, and he maybe thinks that by destroying these frost giants, he can, I don't know, redeem himself or be seen as worthy or what. I don't know, but it's a heartbreaking. I mean, it's obviously the villain is, shows his change from essentially fairly innocent to even more of a villain, and trying to gain Odin's approval, trying to, even through destruction, and for once Thor is trying to stop him from doing something reckless, and he succeeds and everything, and and stops him. At least to that fight where Thor ends up having to destroy the Rainbow Bridge because Loki was going to use it for ill, and Thor does, and eventually Loki's hanging off of it, and at this point Odin has woken up. He's not sleeping anymore, and as much as Thor, we see Loki and Thor trying to, or just at war with each other. We see Odin and Loki interact for the first time since Odin had told him about him being a frost giant, or confirming it, really. So we see this moment with Odin, and Loki holding on to him from the end of the Rainbow Bridge, and he's saying, "I did it for you, Father. I was doing all these things for you to gain your approval, to, show that I'm worthy, show that you can give me a chance." And obviously what he did was wrong, of course, but, we also see a reason behind it. Not an excuse, but a reason. And obviously Odin says no, that shouldn't have been a way to earn my approval. And as a result, Loki kind of gives up that. He lets go, and the next time we see him, he's essentially in full villain mode in the Avengers. So I think that concludes this review. I like this movie. I think I definitely, upon watching it more and more, I like it more and more, and just seeing, again, the cool ways how Asgardians interact with humans from Earth, and just all that, and how that plays out in the story, and how Thor is able to go from reckless to a little more mature, a little more understanding of the world, and also of being more selfless, and that's always a good thing. And also just being introduced to great characters like Jane and Darcy and Eric, and where Thor's story begins. So I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I do think other Marvel movies are better, and this one, it used to be a little bit lower for me, but I think upon watching it more, I like it more, so I'm giving it a higher rating. So that concludes this review. Thank you very much for watching this whole thing, if you did. Next weekend I will be posting another video. It'll be about Captain America, the First Avenger. So stay tuned for that. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and if you like what you see on my channel. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next weekend.